So you find that a lot of people here do openly talk about politics with you?
They do. Or, they'll ask me things like, so what do you think about that election being rigged? It's a very, very slippery slope because typically I get asked those questions at work. And it's like, how do I phrase this in a manner that is A, appropriate, B, answers their question, and C, doesn't create a friction. Um, or they'll come and or they'll come in and have their opinions about, hey, the Democrats are now taking over the Senate. Now gas is going to be $15 a gallon. Good luck taking care of that whole thing. People are very, very open about that here, I notice. And typically my response to that, especially because of course my skin color is definitely different than theirs, so I don't want to get into, sometimes it can turn into a little bit of a racial debate. And I really am not in the mood to kind of start that. Because I've been asked questions like, I remember this one girl at work. Um, I wasn't very fond of her. Her boyfriend was a nice enough guy, but his tattoos had like big swastikas. And then, this here had said skinhead. Don't get me wrong, he was a really nice enough guy, but I was like, am I gonna have to deal with somebody being thrown out of here? We have people here in the front and in the back, and I don't want to deal with a situation that might arise and turn into something else. But the girlfriend, came up to me and she looked at, back, this is before we had to wear masks and stuff like that, or before I had to wear masks. That's my personal choice. She saw my cheekbones and then she's like, oh my gosh, are you native or are you Mexican? Because common question is, are you native? uh, okay, that's always the first question. Understandable, I live in a state where natives are very, very prominent. And she said, are you, and I said, oh, I'm Mexican, ma'am. And I remember she asked me, I have a question, but don't get offended. And usually when people say don't get offended, that usually means they're going to ask me something racial, offensive, or just something that I'm just like, what's going to, but I try my best to do. She goes, how come whenever Mexicans, and that's the only race that is Hispanic, nobody else, how come when Mexicans come over into the US, they just can't learn English? And yeah, that was my face. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do I answer this in the best way possible? Um, and I said, listen, I know that for me, being bilingual has had its perks. In South Dakota, I've never been without a job more than maybe 2 weeks, simply because it is a lot harder to find somebody who is bilingual than someone who does speak English and or Spanish. That's one. Two, when we come here, we are solely focused on finding work and being able to adjust to the current climate that we are in, whether it is South Dakota, California, New York, or any other state. And then we kind of forget about um, learning the local language, or the language that makes it easier to communicate with others. So I'm not sure. I don't know what to tell you. That has been my experience, and that has been my personal thought process. And I think she was a little bit baffled by the. I don't know if she was expecting a different answer, but I think because her boyfriend was very close to her, I didn't want to say anything that might take him off or kind of start. And I've seen him on a couple of occasions, and I was like, he never creates a problem at all. So I never have a reason to be like, oh, I have to kick you out. I think that's one of those very small thin threads that you have to be very careful with.